you know, Fred and Ginger, isn't it? You know, everything Fred does, but backwards and in high heels. I did say I felt like Alice, but I'm not wearing high heels this week. Keep my safety boots on, holding in this stuff. Just like Alice, been down a rabbit hole this week, mucking around, small details, typical of my sort of obsessive behaviour, but I want it right, and that's it. If it ain't right, is it? So what I've been doing is been working on these sills. Oh, we've got a presence in here. Things are moving. Anyway, right, so I'm working on this detail here, which this is your A post. And you can see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get this shape in here. The rest of this sill's pretty formulaic, pretty easy to do. You can see we've got a sort of, you know, fold here, straight across there, down, straight, back up. Yeah, that's all pretty easy to do, not a problem, just regular folded stuff. But this thing's a bit odd, where we've got this shape. This is a bit more tricky. Now, you can see how sharp it is. That's not been fabricated and welded in, that's one pressing. Now, I suspect this was pressed out with this in mind. I'm not sure what to make of this. If this is off something else that they've adapted, they've said, oh, look, these work and we'll fit this to the Maseratis, or if they've tooled up to make it, it probably wouldn't take too much to tool that up and do that. But it's slightly incongruous because it's not like the rest of it where it's all very handmade. This is they had to press that in, and I can only see that being done as one, you know, big piece of machinery doing that. So it could be that it's on something else, that, you know, something of the era, that they, you know, off an Alfa Romeo or a Fiat of the era, and they had a similar sill section. They said, well, I'll adapt them, they'll work nicely in this. And when we've got this nice little bit down the bottom there, but I don't know. But anyway, I'm trying to replicate that. And that's what I mean. That's where the rabbit hole is. So to do that, I thought I'll make a bit of tooling up with the shape in it, and we can you know, chase it in there, and then I can put all the folds on and everything else. So that's where I began, and yeah, had some success. Let me grab a couple of pieces. Yeah, you can see. So this is what I mean. Look. This has got a bit silly, hasn't it? But yeah, that's nothing like what I want, is it? It's not sharp enough. So that's in the scrap bin. Another one here. Yeah, I chased it in, done the best I could, and tried to shrink that down a bit. That's in the scrap bin. That one's not too bad, a bit sharp in here. I managed to fluff that a bit, trying to get in there, but I tried to, you know, see what it looked like once we've done it all. That's getting there. That's getting there. It's reasonable, but it's not quite right. So that one's no good. And that was about the best I could get chasing it in by hand. Now this one is something slightly different. Now this I pressed in. So I went from this sort of hand forming it, chasing it in on the bench here, to actually pressing it in and making up tooling and using my fly press. Well, we'll look at that in a minute. And in the meantime, let's chase one of these in so you can see what happens and what I was trying to do there. So, I want on that. On there. We're going to have to clamp this down onto here. We want a bit of overhang on there, so because we want that flat, so we want to end up onto that flat there. So let's get some clamps on here. And we'll do that. Grab me a mallet. Yeah, carry on, carry on. Right, now this is just a quick run through this, just for the sake of seeing what we're trying to do, give you an idea of trying to hand chase it in, what you do, what can be done, and the sort of what can I say? The can't think the word anyway. I'll just do it. You know what I mean? It's limitations, that's the word. The limitations to trying to chase it in. That's what I'm looking for. Right. Here we are. You come sort of or over here, you'll see that as that dimples down, you'll see. So you can see as we start to dimple it down, you start to see the impression of where that is. Then we'll go over to this nylon chaser. Tighten that up a bit, it's slipping. Right, there we are. So this is purely to show what can be done, like that by hand, and it's just a quick run through. So we're getting there, we're getting something. It didn't quite right, obviously, and I'm just showing how much you can move the metal like that. But this is why I'm unsatisfied. But of course, it kept moving as well because it's trying to move and that. So this is just literally. That's not, oh, this is my best work. That's just to show where the problems are. And you see, it's not sharp enough really. It's not quite right, or it's, in fact, if anything, that's too sharp, that edge, where I've sort of tried to chase it in. It's asking too much to do that manually. Not impossible. As I say, I feel that, we could keep mucking around with it. I could get one out of there that would suffice. But I want a bit better than that. So that's where I've got into, trying to press it in on the thing. So you can see how much nicer this is, how much smoother it is. It follows it a lot better. This is still not perfect, but it's a lot better. So that's the beginning of it. So I think, once that's sorted, that will be all right. That would work. Obviously, that doesn't make the whole seal. That's just this detail. But this is what I'm working on, this detail. So we'll have a look on the fly press in a minute, and you'll see, what I've done to create this one. And I'm getting happier, but I'm still not there. That's the trouble. Right, next door onto the fly press. Made all this lot up, and then we can bolt this down onto here. So set that down on there like that. There we go. Now I've got it on a chock of wood up there. That's just to hold it up whilst I'm working on it. You can adjust this nut here to stop this, but of course otherwise I've got to keep running this up and down. So a chock of wood will suffice for the minute. So you can see this is effectively the male to go with that female. So that's what we got. We'll take that off in a minute and have a proper look. But let's run a piece through and see what we got. See what it's doing, and you'll see, you know, what I'm up to here. So here's a bit. We'll put that in there. And this is just for the purposes of trying it out. This isn't a finished item. This is just showing what we're getting so far. And it's taken a little while to get to this point. So if I wang this round, you might have to stand back, or you'll might, you know, like the Queen of Hearts, off with his head. There we go. So yeah, that's what we're getting, which is reasonable. You know, it's not bad. It's pressing that shape in quite nicely, but of course we haven't got these returns at the minute. So I'm having to hand chase them in. You know, to do those, we're having to do them by hand, which is not the end of the world. You know, that's how I produced that other one, and it's reasonable. But I'd like to get these bits done. So I'm going to add on to this, these bits. So if we put them on there and weld them in place, I mean, really I want to bolt them in place, but for the purposes of getting this done quick, I might just hold them on with some tack welds, and we'll see what that does. And then that should, you know, put that shape into it and this shape into it. You know, so that might work better. It might start to split though, that's the trouble. We don't know what, you know, it could start to tear the metal, because we're asking quite a lot of that. But let's see what we got. Right, let's get these stuck on. Right, I might get a bit more on that one. Now these are really only tacks, just to hold it on whilst we try this out, because really I want to have them so they can be removed, and I'll tell you for why in a bit. But let's see what that gives us. See if it'll even work. Okay, so more of the same. We'll stick a bit of this in here and see what it does. Let's see if it gives us what we're trying to get. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad, does it? So I can see already a bit of an issue. We haven't got this quite lined up, I don't think, have we? I think I've got, you know, I said I've allowed a bit of clearance there. I've probably allowed a bit too much. But, you know, it's not looking too bad, is it? So, you know, this is what I'll have to do, is make these, you know, grind these off, make these so they can be adjusted. I think that's the answer there, isn't it? So, I don't reckon that's too bad for a first attempt, is it? So I think with a bit of engineering, make these so these can be bolted to that plate. And I think they've got to go in a bit, I reckon, which is why we're not getting that so sharp. And that one actually might not be in line, mightn't it? I reckon that's out of line a bit, looking at that. But that's a good start. That's a good try. Okay, we'll take this off, because I'll have to grind them off now, won't I? So I'll show you what that looks like, that die, and you can get an idea of what we're doing here and what we're mucking about with. That nut will hold that up, so I ain't going to get my fingers trapped, am I? So this has got little Allen bolts on it, much like these. and recessed in. They need to be recessed, obviously, otherwise what will happen is they'll just transfer into the metal, won't they? You know, you'd end up with it showing through here, you know, so it's got to be flat. But it's worked quite well because you're not seeing any sort of dimpling from them. So they're obviously working well enough. So yeah, it's not, you know, not too bad. I feel I'm onto something here. I think this is quite good. You know, I think this could work quite well. Although doing a whole sin of it, I'm not sure. That's when I get into other issues. But that's why I'm trying to get this bit right. If we get this bit about right, then we'll see about putting the folds in the rest of it. I can't make, you know, this wouldn't take doing it in one go. You know, I can't have a whole length of it in here because it wouldn't do it. You'd need a different type of machinery for that. But this at least gives us a good, you know, well, I've got to use what I've got, and this is what I've got. You know, you'd need some sort of form of press brake, which I think that's what they probably used. They probably made up tooling for a press brake and made them. You know, so my earlier comments about, oh, you know, they found something off another car, you know, that might just be me being whimsical. You know, it might not be what they did at all. But, you know, I don't know, and that's the trouble. We don't really know, do we? You know, if you think how old them guys are going to be now that built all this stuff, you know, if they're anything like senior at that point, then they're probably, unfortunately, no longer with us. So yeah, you see, so that's the die, that's the shape. So yeah, look at how these line up. That's about, yeah, I think we need to move that further forwards. We might have to move this further forwards. Although actually, don't know what's going on there. That's what we're getting there. I think we need to close that gap up. So that must be angling back there somehow. So, what's happening there? And I might have to weld this up, mightn't I? That hole, change it. I don't know. We'll have to see how. I'm going to try moving that further forwards and leaving that void there, because that does leave the metal somewhere to sort of go. So I don't know if we have to worry too much about that. But it's obviously not tight enough on this here, is it? Because it's allowing too much. It seems to be folding nicely there, but it seems to be too baggy in here. And this one's too baggy throughout the whole thing, actually, isn't it? If you look at that. So yeah, we need to adjust them. I mean, it might be worth making them so I can adjust them on slots, if you see what I mean. So that goes into here, like that. And that's so you can bolt them into this arbor here. That's why that is. But these, I can just bolt these in from above, because it doesn't matter now, does it? I don't need to have that flush up here, but I do in there. So it might be that I can, you know, I can tap this, and then I can have some bolts like that going through here on some little slots, and that will make these adjustable, which might work quite well. And then if it doesn't hold nicely, I can always tack weld it on like this. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's the plan here. So yeah, and of course the other thing, while I'm bolting it on like this, is I've got to make this for both sides of the car. So this has got to be reversible. So I've got to flip it over, haven't I, to do it the opposite way, as it were. So yeah, it's you know, Fred and Ginger, isn't it? You know, everything Fred does, but backwards and in high heels. I did say I felt like Alice, but I'm not wearing high heels this week. Keep my safety boots on, holding this stuff. But anyway, there we are. That's that bit. Yeah, let's have a look at some other stuff. Right, so there you go. That's what it's called, development, isn't it? So that's what it's taken. So that's the first one we did this morning. That we just filmed doing. That was without the returns on it. That's with the returns on it. This is my best pressing that I did that way, but then with finishing them by hand, these returns, which, you know, looks quite neat. You know, that sort of is good enough. We want to get that to that level. So that's what we're aiming for. Obviously this fold here and that fold there is to mirror, you know, to finish what it should look like. That obviously we didn't put them in with it. You know, all we're going to do is we're going to get that plane, that, and this one and that one. These can be done on the folder afterwards. That's fine. That's not a problem. But we've got to get these parallel. So as you see how that's sort of running off a bit at the moment. So, you know, I didn't do a lot of setting up. We just did that, didn't we? And I just guessed it. So that's why I think we can make them adjustable. But before I could even get to doing, you know, that yesterday, getting to that level, I had to make all that tooling. And here is some of what it took to, you know, some of the test pieces. So that one crinkled up. That was before I had that plate on the top that keeps it flat as it goes. So that was just having the die and the lower piece, and that's why it's all done that. So that, you know, that needed sorting out. That's not going to work. That's another one like that. That was when we first, I put a plate on it to begin with, but the plate was too thin and it buckled, so that was no good. That's just one I ran out this morning. I'd already done one there and flattened it out. That was just a customer was here this morning and I was showing them that earlier on, and I was saying, well, that's what I've been doing. So that's that one. That's one where we had it too tight before, you know, it was in there a bit tight and it split. That's actually, no, I think that was one of the hand chased ones and it split down the bottom. So that's no good. That was one on the tooling. That's one before I adjusted. So that's before I radialised this bit on the, you know, and it did that. And that's with my earlier piece of metal I had on it. So it's strong enough, but it didn't go back far enough. And again, yeah. So there, I'm still. You see how it's splitting in the corner. So it's asking too much of it, but the die was too sharp. That's before I radialised the die. So yeah, that didn't work. That's with the die radialised, it's starting to work. And that's another one with it radialised, but that's without having the plate on the top to keep it flat as it goes. So that's what you need. You need the plate on the flat. You need that plate across the top, nice strong plate to do the lot. So I reckon with these adjusted, we'll be consistently taking them out like that. And that's what we're looking for. That's exactly, you know, what it wants. And then it's going to be like factory, isn't it? Which is exactly why we're doing all this. And then someone can come along and fill it up with filler and bugger it right up like they did with that one. There we are. Thought we ought to see where these fit. Me wobbling on about this and you not knowing where it goes exactly, that's it. So a post goes here and this has this little cutout. So with the door on you'll barely see it, but you know, you might look down in there and see it and see that gap. I want it right, you know, like I like everything to be right. So they're a bit strange, the construction of these, because then they have that piece on there, pops in like that, and then that sort of allows all your trim to fit in there and things like that. You know, that's where that aluminium piece goes over that traps the carpet and all that. And then the other stainless steel trim goes along here, which I've had to make on the other car. So yeah, that's that. Gives you an idea of what we're dealing with. And of course all the rust in here, you know, that's why we're doing it. This is original. I unpicked this carefully, and then that'll go back on. And obviously we're making a new one of these. And then we've got I've deconstructed the B post. We'll get into that on another film. But yeah, we're doing that. But that's that bit. And whilst we're about it, let's have a look at our man Maglioli, you know. Maglioli, Umberto anyway. So here's Umberto, sat in a Maserati birdcage. As I said, works driver for Maserati. And this is why they call it the birdcage, because this is all part of the chassis. It's all made of these little tubes up. So it looks like a little birdcage. So that's, you know, just beautiful cars, these birdcages. That's one in full flight on the Targa Floria. Don't think that's Umberto, but you know, he drove these things, as we can see. You know, and then we can see this bit where it'd be on the screen here with the construction of it. Lovely things, these. And here's the man himself with his good lady. I think this is a charming picture, isn't it? This chap in the background watching. There we are. There we go. He's got his Maserati catalogue there, isn't he? His brochure, and he's saying, "What do you think about one of these, love?" And she's saying, "Yes, love. Let's get that. Keep it for our house in Venezuela, isn't it? In Caracas." I think that's the idea, isn't it? Yeah, charming, isn't it? But yeah, he was sort of known for wearing these shirts when he raced, not wearing full race overalls. Probably got a St. Christopher's on here, probably all the protection he needs. And he also was known to write his blood group on his arm in biro. which I think's all quite funny. So he's sort of, yeah, you see, he's in his little short sleeve shirt there. So he's known for wearing a Lacoste polo shirt, Persol sunglasses, and there's blood group written on his on his arm. So if you want to dress like him, that's the code. That's what you do. But yeah, he's quite a guy, and a bit of burl cream by the looks of it. There we are. So yeah, isn't that charming? Yeah, I thought the era and this romance of it all is the glamour of those times are just wonderful, isn't it? So there we are, happier times. Let's hope for lots more happier times. The world's in a bit of a funny way, but then you don't want to hear about that, do you? You can see that on yourself on the news, but let's just hope and pray that that gets a bit better. And I say goodbye, and we'll see what I'm doing next week. Maybe we'll have all that done. Wouldn't that be lovely? As if by magic.